leadership and parenting. The two go together. Same thing. You're leading children or you're leading other people. Here's some of my experience with this. I just had a very profound experience this morning where I'm on the other side of it, dealing with people in a leadership position. And it's very frustrating for me when people do not practice what I'm about to convey. So I've had success with my children by explaining in detail how important their actions are, their roles in the dynamic of our family. So the same could be said for any type of a hierarchy or organization, right? So I will tell my children, we'll stick with the family example, that when the two of them get along, so we had an incident specifically where I'd leave the house and be working somewhere or whatever, but I'm gone, and my daughter, who's 13 or so, would call me in tears and just say that my son, who was 7 or 8 at the time, was going crazy and they were fighting and major issues, right? Both of them in tears. And I would tell them, just wait, I'll get home as soon as I can. I'd get there and I would explain to them how important it is that they just figure out a way to get along, because it is important that I go out and be able to make money, and they like to eat food, they like to have clothes. And so I explained to them their role and their abilities to figure it out and work together. I didn't have all the answers on, what exactly to say or how to deal with it, because she'd say, well, he's doing this, and then he'd say, well, she's doing that, and I don't know how to diffuse that situation. But the overall picture that they understood was how important their actions are in the overall success of our family, and to the contrary, how destructive their actions can be if they are not conducive to our success, if their actions are not conducive, if they're fighting and behaving in a way that's destructive to our family. And then my ability to explain the consequences of that, what that turns out to be. They may not understand that. So same dynamic I've experienced in the sober living. I will, in any scenario, explain or ask them, like, what would you do in my position? Am I being unfair? Am I understanding what happened correctly? So there's this huge desire for me in any scenario, and I exhibit a desire to understand and to seek understanding first. Like, what exactly happened? Tell me, okay, am I right in my understanding? And once that's established, then I can explain to them my perspective. So, what would you do in my shoes? What do you think the appropriate course of action for me is? And quite often, with my son, for example, he will give himself a consequence that's way too extreme. He'll be like, Dad, ground me for a week. I'll be like, no, just do 20 push-ups, right? Or no video games today or something. I will be the one to tone it down. Same thing I've experienced in the sober living. As long as everybody understands why I'm acting in a certain way, or maybe there's an initiative with the managers and we will talk about something that we need to do. We'll bring it up and make sure everybody understands, hey, this happened, so we'll explain the logic towards the decision and how important it is and why we're going to implement a new policy or a new house rule or whatever. This happened, so therefore we are moving forward going to blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense to everybody? Or is that fair? Does anyone have any questions? And it's not that everyone's always going to say, yeah, that's fair, we're on board. They may or may not, but it tells you a lot about what they are and who they are if, when that time comes. I have yet to have a time where somebody says, no, that's completely unfair, you're being unreasonable. We try to find a good middle ground, whether it's parenting or leadership hierarchy in the sober living. And so I can tell you, in a group that I'm affiliated with, there's a men's group I go to, we had an issue. There's a massive breakdown in communication where I was just trying to understand, why are you doing this? What is the logic? Where do we, how can I help? And we were unable to get there. And at this point, it's pretty clear to me that I'm gonna have to move on from that group, but that's okay too. It leads to another point. As the recovery thing, the not drinking, the not drugging, as that has continued for me, and I would imagine for anyone listening to this, I have developed into an area where I have more leadership roles, whether it's parenting or, it could be career. For me, not necessarily. But if you want to say the sober living as a career thing, it's not. It's more of a passion and a hobby. But there is leadership roles in the sober living thing. And as you grow, I've noticed as I watch other people who are in leadership roles, or maybe they're in mentor roles, things like that, there's naturally going to be this opposition towards you. Like that saying, no good deed goes unpunished. Very true. People think, well, because I'm doing the right thing or because my intentions are good, everyone's going to embrace it and be with me. And that's not the case. The more I've discovered, the more strong-willed I am, the more ambitious I am, the more opinions I have, you absolutely drum up controversy. You drum up naturally protagonist type perspectives and people that'll work against you, even though we all may have good intentions or in general working towards the same thing. For example, the men's group that I go to has a larger affiliate and 200 guys strong with leadership. They all want the same thing. They all want to help people in recovery. They all want to grow as a group, but there's constantly contention and difference of opinions and a lot of dysfunction in that. So trying to find a way to, I think, the key is finding a way when you are in a leadership role to get everybody on the same page. The most important element is communication and helping people understand your perspective. Seek to understand. Make sure they understand where you're coming from. Make sure that you clarify the consequences of actions, right? And then get a consensus. Does everybody understand why this is important? And make sure everyone genuinely goes, yes, we get it. Now your whole team's on the same page. And you can't always appease everybody. I know, especially, I've only gotten to a certain level and this is where I'm at right now, but I'm comfortable knowing maybe my path is growing into a different area. Like if I'm in, and whether it's work or anything else, if I'm in an organization where I disagree with the direction and the leadership and there's a lack of communication and there's, I'll put it this way and I'll wrap it up with this. With children, the whole I told you so thing doesn't fly, doesn't work. You do it because I told you so. You'll just create a monster that way. Or it's the rules, period. We have rules, we have policies in the sober living, but everything's kind of a gut feel as well. There is flexibility. Dr. Wayne Dyer always emphasizes the importance of flexibility. Anything that's living is flexible. A living tree is flexible. A dead tree is brittle and stagnant and black and white. It's the rules, just the rules. And that's that. To a certain extent, yes, but you have to have that flexibility. So these are principles that I'm understanding and learning and growing and want to convey and document the journey as I go. All right, I hope that's helpful to somebody out there. Worst case, I'll look back at this and see where it ends up. All right, thanks, bye.